Okay. Okay, so we are back. Welcome to Lecture 2, Part 2 of Frozen 2. And we are trying to figure out the life lessons from Frozen 2. So let's pick up where we left off. So we left off on the song Into the Unknown. And maybe the most powerful song of this movie, but I would say that Show Yourself is a lot better. But well, you get to watch Elsa change, and I think this is, both of these songs have them in common in the fact that you get to see Elsa really, um, well, shift her mindset is really the best way of saying it. So where we left off, she gets her call to adventure. It's sort of this, sort of a musical tone, which is really just which is a call from her unconscious to essentially say, there's more for you to grow, there's more for you to learn. And well, so wakes her up in the middle of the night, and she is not in for it. She is not in for it, and she's not happy with it because, well, her life is going good right now. And there you go. I've had my adventure. I don't need something new. I'm afraid of what I'm risking if I follow you into the unknown. And that's exactly what it is. She's living a good life right now. Why would she want to risk any of it and try to do anything new? But as we explained before, the entire thing is there's this natural impulse right in here. It's just her impulse to grow, her impulse to learn, her impulse to become a better person and to not stagnate. And that's exactly what she's experiencing right here. She's really, really gonna try to push through that. So and these are the two. This is essentially the war that she's having inside of her head. It's like this is her conscious brain, this is her rational brain saying things are going good right now, and this is this is her singing back to the voice. So well, it's a different message. So yeah, so what's super interesting is that the voice actually calls back at her, and essentially she gets scared, right? So not only is her conscious brain saying, hey, listen, things are actually going well right now, also her unconscious brain is saying, listen, I fear, like I'm actually afraid of what's going to happen if I go into the unknown. And hey, listen, I really don't blame her. But the best part about the voice, and the voice, you could call it part of the unconscious, but I think it's a little bit more than that. What I think it really is it's her well, it's her potential calling her. She has the potential to be something a lot greater than herself, right? And that's what this whole hero's journey is going to be about. And well, her growth is on the other side. You could call that the well, yeah, the call to adventure. Her call to adventure, the thing that is calling her, is her encountering her full potential. Her full potential is literally right in front of her, and well, it's her choice whether or not she wants to pursue it. I think we all, I think Jordan Peterson talks about this a lot. He says, we humans were gifted with this idea that we could actually see into the future. We sort of say, if I take this path, this is where I'll probably lead. And if I take this path, this is where I'll probably lead. If I start working out twice a week, twice a week, then I'll start losing X amount of weight or I'll start gaining X amount of muscle. And you can actually see into the future. You can actually predict what's going to happen in the future. And obviously, the same way, if I start doing cocaine, then here's what's going to happen to me. And well, she's starting to see the good side of herself. She's starting to see the good potential that exists inside of her, and it's her choice whether or not she wants to follow the path. And that's exactly what this song is about. So one of some of the lyrics here is well, when she starts to, obviously there's a lot of debate here, right? No, yes, no. And then right here she's starting to register at a deeper emotional level where she starts to actually realize that maybe this is deeper than just some voice calling me. She's talking to the voice or whoever's singing the voice. It says, or are you someone out there who's a little bit like me, who knows deep down I'm not where I'm meant to be? So really, when they say who knows deep down I'm not where I'm meant to be, exactly what they're saying is maybe that's a part of her, right? Maybe that part of her is saying, hey, listen, you're in the wrong spot. And that's exactly what her unconscious is saying. But that's the thing. So she's literally, well, she's struggling, right? She's struggling deep down. She's Queen of Arendelle, right? So here's the pitch that I think is is maybe one of the most important parts of this book. It's like, she's meant to be queen, right? So obviously, there's this idea of lineage, right? She's biologically, she's going to be the queen, and you could call that maybe the queen of her own world, or maybe you could see that as the highest status position that exists in society, or that exists in her life. Good status, good reputation, but the question is, does that make you happy? And the answer in The Lion King was yes, that does make you happy, right? Because what ends up happening is Simba becomes the Lion King, and well, he pursues his potential, but he stays within the bounds of, okay, this is where I'm meant to be, and that's what I'm going for. This movie takes a different turn where she says, listen, I am queen, but you know what? Do I want to be queen? Like, this is the thing that was lined up for me my whole life. And obviously, yes, it has all this status. It has all this fame. I live in a castle, essentially. I have all this money, but it's really not what it's not what I wanted to do. And maybe this logos, maybe this god that is her father, right? Maybe this well, I can't call him a good father, but I could say that he was a high status father. And maybe this high status father was not a good path to follow. Maybe she has a different path to follow. So let's keep going. And one thing that I really like here is, so right now she makes like a little like ice thing and she's moving into it, sort of like a portal. You can imagine that. And this is usually what happens in almost every movie. You pick the movie and there's one point, or any fantasy movie, right? Any like mythology movie where things start to become, well, unconscious, right? Where things go from very rational, like everything from this point forward, like dad tells the story, then you sort of get a recount of her past, and then there's this then she's queen. Everything is really logical and everything's sort of going pretty standard according to how our world is structured. But then once you step in this right here, everything gets thrown into disbelief, right? None of what happens after this is going to be logical. And well, that's what makes movies pretty great. It's like, it takes you out of your world and it brings you into a whole different reality. And this reality is not going to be something that you're used to. So in every movie you're going to see this. There's a step into the unknown, and man, talk about appropriate. The fact that this is into the unknown. She's embracing the unknown, and it's not a surprise that she's stepping into the unknown right here. And if you could see, then she starts essentially crafting in this entire forest within, you could call it her unconscious mind. She's stepping into her unconscious. That's exactly what's happening. And well, so the first step of what's happening is, yeah, she steps into her unconscious mind, and she rejects the standard way of looking at things. That's the best part, because if you're living completely consciously, if you're doing the things that everyone else is doing and following your routines and following this conscious pattern that you've established for yourself, then you're not going to be able to open your eyes to new things, things that are different. And this is exactly what she's doing here. She sort of suspends her regular view of the world. And if we really want to think about it, that's exactly what happens when you change your mindset in any way. Imagine we start talking about there's a game that I played when I was younger. It was a yellow car, and every time you see a yellow car, you get a point, right? Just something simple as you're driving, so you don't get bored. And well, then you're going to start noticing the yellow cars. Your brain is going to say, oh, this yellow car is actually relevant, and therefore I'm going to sort of switch my gears, switch the way that I look at the world to see these yellow cars. It's actually a kind of profound idea, and that's exactly what's happening here. She instead of yellow cars, she's talking about growth and searching deeper into herself. And every time there's something that says, okay, maybe you should search deeper into yourself, just as the yellow cars, you're actually well, you're actually conscious about it. You're actually aware of it. There's this great archetype. It's in the biblical traditions, but it's pretty much everywhere, where Jesus goes and he says, God is all around us. Men just don't see him. And I think that's true. I think maybe it's not God, right? Maybe it's not God in the Christian religious sense, the strict Christian sense, but it's you know growth and spirituality and opportunity and I think opportunity is the greatest word for it. Like the ability to grow is right in front of you, right? Like you always have the option, but we just don't see it. Just like the yellow cars, or just like maybe the red cars that could be part of the game, but we really don't care about the red cars in this case. So yeah, then you can see they're actually somewhat similar over here. But yeah, so she accepts her call to adventure. She decides she wants to go into the unknown, and and yeah, I think this is something that's really funny. If you to go and follow Moana, right, which we've been doing a little bit over here, it's the same thing. It's the same thing as the song "How Far I'll Go." They're almost identical songs, and what you do there is congratulations, like you found an archetype, and the archetype here is essentially, I'm gonna embrace the things that most people don't, and I'm gonna embrace what's best for me, which is a powerful way of looking at the world. So, um, well, I find that pretty profound. It's like when we look at heroes, why do we like heroes? And the answer that I've started to come up with is heroes do the things that we really can't, or the things that we really don't. They like in this case, Elsa has courage, right? She has courage and she has the ability to face the unknown and stare at it and look and go into it. And I don't think that's something that we all do. I think that's something that people are afraid of, like most people. Well, I think Tony Robbins said it best. He said, it's no surprise that the thing holding everybody back is fear, something like that. And I think that's just so true. It's like fear is the thing that pushes everybody back, and we could project our fantasies, we could project our dreams onto Elsa in this moment. Like we're actually looking at Elsa and saying, maybe she's she kind of knows what's up, or maybe she has the right idea, and well, there's something special about that. There's something special in her fulfilling the desires that we can actually fulfill ourselves. And it's kind of sad, but I guess that's just how it is. But so what happens is what happens well, actually we'll go back here. So what happens is Elsa tries to explain. So she gets to this point where anytime you break against the societal norms, you're going to experience this. So she just made a rash decision. This entire into the unknown type thing, was completely irrational. The only reason that she did it is right here where she says, I know I'm not where I'm meant to be, but where she's supposed to be. She's queen. Why would she want to ditch her responsibilities as queen? So exactly what happens here, she tries to explain it to everybody. She tries to explain it to her sister and say, why did you just do this? Why did you just, accept this call to adventure? And she just says, I know it sounds crazy, but I just did this crazy thing and it makes almost no sense. And when she tries to explain it, she doesn't even try to explain it rationally. She doesn't say like, I did it because of this reason and that reason and that reason. There's no logical progress. There's no logical thinking in this. It's just a feeling. It's just a spirit. And she says, she's like, I just feel like this is right. And well, the only thing is, how do you know if you never find out? Which is a scary thing because obviously she's taking a lot of risk here, right? That's exactly what we fear. We fear the risk. We fear the failure. And well, she's just going for it. She's just taking the risk that most people don't want to take. And I think because it's a hero story, like we know that at the end of the day she's gonna win. But it's a lot more scary when you're doing it alone because it's like you have no idea whether or not you're gonna win. This constant discomfort, this constant failure or potential for failure is strong. And well, it's even worse when you don't have a rational plan for it. That's the thing that's a little crazy. So what happens is to really symbolize what taking a risk does. There was this little supernatural aid that happens here. And to really, first I'll give you exactly what happened, then I'll explain the significance behind it. So essentially, her town kicks her out, and when I say her town, I mean like the spirits in her city. So you can see the bricks um, are kind of forcing everybody to go out. The wind in the background is going a little crazy. All the lights are out, and essentially nature is kicking all the citizens outside of the city. And we don't really know why yet, but nature is kicking her out, and they're kicking out all the citizens too. And well, first you got to ask, what is nature doing, right? What is this symbolizing on nature kicking people out of the city? And for this, you could look to Paul Coelho's Alchemist. In Paul Coelho's Alchemist, he says that whenever you set your heart to do something, nature will do everything in its power to um, to help you succeed. Yeah, that's the quote. And well, that's exactly what it's doing here. So Elsa just essentially said, I am going to embrace discomfort. I'm going to do something that goes completely against the status quo, and do something that's unknown, risky. And the supernatural aid, which is the bricks, which is the air, fire, water, and earth, the four spirits, kick everybody out of the city, and they say there's no turning back at this point. There's no turning back. We're kicking everybody out of the city, and now you have to go because, well, now you already got started. And well, if you're looking for the meaning behind that, it really means that when you start something new, right? When you change your mindset in this manner, because really all she did here, she didn't do any action here in this movie, in this song Into the Unknown. But what she did was she changed her mindset, right? So she changed her mindset from something that is risk averse to risk facing, you could say. And when she decided to face her fears, face the fear of failure, um well, she can never go back. That's the thing. So she changed her mindset, and it's not like you could just go back to the old mindset without any residual effects. So let me explain this in the example of someone who's trying to go to the gym. If you accept your quote call to adventure, which is pretty much saying I'm going to start going to the gym, then you're accepting a few beginning premises, which is I'm not the person that I want to be yet. My body doesn't look as good as I want it to yet. And I haven't been acting in the manner that I should have. Right? So three really important things. And now imagine you go to the gym, you go for 2 weeks and you fail. Now you go back to your old routines. You keep not acting how you should. You keep I'm not even gonna remember the other two, but you keep doing the things that you were doing previously. The only thing is, but now you have these realizations that when you sit on the couch, you know that you're doing things that you shouldn't, and you can do something about it, which is, well, it means that you're officially transformed, even though you haven't really transformed in action. You're a different person, and you're never going to be complacent in the place where you were before because, well, in this case, nature is having an effect on you. Now, the second question is, why is he kicking out all the townspeople instead of just Elsa, right? Why are all the townspeople being they essentially get moved over to, let's see if I have it here. No, I don't have it here. But they get moved over to a place outside the land. They have to live on essentially like rough grass for a few I guess this all goes through a week. So they have to live on rough grass for a week. And well, this goes back to maybe the most important thing of all storytelling is that this world that exists in this movie is Elsa's world, right? It's every single townsperson in here is a part of her. It's you can imagine Elsa is a person within the story, but at the same time, this entire city also symbolizes Elsa. So Elsa might be the main character in this town, but all these other townspeople are characters in her own story. And well, you could see them as either the people that surround her, or you could also see them as well, the part of her, every single part of her brain. So like, you can imagine like there are 10 people here. So one of them could be could symbolize her impulse for aggression. The other one could be her impulse for love. The other one could be her impulse for resting. The other, and every single person in here makes up Elsa's brain. So you can imagine as Arendelle being literally Elsa's brain. And well, the meaning behind that is, first of all, when you if this is all part of Elsa, then when you start to make a change in your life, everything gets thrown into disarray. Everything, every single part of your brain, you could say maybe like the hero part of your brain is happy and you're going to be doing things. But now since you're disrupting all order, then every other part of your brain now has no idea what to do. It's not stuck within the system anymore, or it doesn't have the order of the system anymore. It doesn't have the stability that is really good in well, our brain's creative stability. So everything inside of her brain gets thrown into disarray, and you can really see this in the way that she's acting. Like she really has no idea what is, well, what's going on inside of her head. She's just, all she's doing is acting on a feeling. So really everything's getting thrown into disarray. The other part of the symbolism here, if you want to look at it from, she's just a person and everyone else around her is the other people around her. If you're looking from a surface level, you're saying that everything that Elsa does has an effect on other people. And I think that's 100% true. There was a study where people who they tracked over 30 years people who were losing weight, and well, they tracked over 30 years people and their weight. And all they did was they said, you know, it's been 2 years since we last checked your weight. How much do you weigh? And they also asked them, who are your friends? And they came to such a crazy conclusion in the fact that for the people who gained weight, the people around them also gained a okay, so we are back. I apologize. There was a technical difficulty that happened, and well, turns out cameras aren't so easy to work with. But anyways, so what I was saying was that there was a study about people who yeah, like they tracked how the people around them really affected their weight, and they found that for the people who gained weight, the people who were around them, let's say their best friend, their not their neighbor, but well, their closest friends and also their family were the ones who also gained weight. And you got to ask the question, it's like, did one person have an effect on the other person? And it seems like the answer is yes. Also, because for the people who lost weight, they actually found a positive correlation too. So they found that if you lose weight, then your friends also lose weight. So it really kind of rings true that Elsa, she really has an effect on, well, everyone else. I think that's such a powerful message in saying that, you know what? You are the queen or the king or the center of your own universe. And, well, you have an effect on every single person around you. And I really, really like that message because, well, it's true. It's very true. So we are going to go on and well, yeah, so Elsa, she tries to explain it, and this is really funny. I was thinking about this last night, and I realized that the most popular songs in the Frozen series are two songs. It's Frozen 1's Let It Go and Frozen's 2 Into the Unknown. They're almost the same song. They're almost the same exact song. They're the same message behind them mostly, and they embody the same archetype, which is really, really scary. So if you look at Let It Go, the entire song is essentially about, I've been living under this system that doesn't really favor me and doesn't allow me to take that many risks. I'm just going to let it go and I'm just going to try something new, right? That's exactly what she was doing in Let It Go, and she did. She didn't really have a plan, right? She said essentially, I'm free, right? I'm free from these constraints, but I don't know what my new plan is going to be. I just need to, well, let go of the old system, which is a profound message, right? It's actually a pretty good message. It's I know I talked about it before. It's the line in Thus Spoke Zarathustra, the three metamorphoses, and it's an important step along the journey. Well, it's the same thing in Into the Unknown. Exactly what you're saying is, listen, I have no idea where I'm going to go. I have no idea what this is going to be or who I'm going to be. But at the same time, I need to take this chance. I need to get out of this system that is making me stagnant, make me stagnate. And I got to get rid of this stagnation. I need to do something, and I don't know what that something is, and that's exactly what this is right here. She's like, I have no idea what I'm going to do. I don't really have a plan, but I need the freedom to make a plan. And if I don't have that freedom, I'll never make a plan. So it's more of a step-by-step journey, and you need the freedom, then you get the plan. Can't do the freedom and the plan at the same time because, well, plans take a while to craft. So um, well, she doesn't really know what she's doing, but that's not really that much of a problem. So then what happens is then now you have some more supernatural aid, which is this sort of like, I don't know. I guess he just gives prophecies. He's, what is it? You call him a soothsayer in the traditional Greek, but I mean, yeah, like this troll comes in and he gives a prophecy, which is sort of like the lullaby, sort of like a foreshadowing for the rest of the movie. And what he says is Arendelle is not safe, and well, that's the exact reason why stagnation isn't safe. Arendelle is not safe, and the reason why is because things aren't changing, right? Like Anna doesn't want things to change, and for Elsa, she's sort of stuck in this state where things are constantly staying the same, and things are being stagnated. And well, the problem with stagnation is that evil is always lurking, evil in almost all senses. There's always stuff that's going on around you. There's always either evil could take the form of lethargy, evil could take the form of addiction, evil could take the form of losing passion. All these things, they exist, and they're constantly being changed. They're constantly bubbling up in the surface, and well, if you're stagnating, then you're not, well, you get too comfortable to the point where you don't even notice those. And that was the biggest problem that Mufasa had in The Lion King. It's the same idea. And well, that's why Arendelle's not safe, because they stop growing. And then so that's what that's sort of what the prophecy was. So the prophecy was, you need to do something to make Arendelle safe. And the answer is, you need to grow. You need to grow in some way. And therefore, if you grow, then you're going to be able to adapt to the new times. You're going to be able to adjust to the evil and be able to, essentially push that down. And we're going to find that there's going to be some evil going on around here. So they're really embodying this archetype. And well, the first thing you need to do is, well, when you're going deeper into the unconscious, if we're going to follow the hero's journey framework, you need to cross the first threshold. You need to, well, take the next step into your unconscious. So, I mean, one of the thresholds, or something that could resemble a threshold, is Elsa really stepping into this sort of portal, the stepping into the unconscious, stepping into the unknown. But now this is going to be the biggest step where they're going deeper into it, and they're actually taking action to go and well, face herself, go into the unknown, we could say. And what they do is they're going into this forbidden forest that was talked about earlier in the movie. And well, the first thing about the hidden forest is they take a step into it, and they take a step into it, and the doors close behind them. So it's all foggy, it's all cloudy, right? And that's what we could sort of see as like the clouded judgment that we were talking about before. Like well, that's a good representation of Elsa, right? Like Elsa doesn't really know what she's doing. She just knows that she has to go here. So her vision of her force, you could say, is cloudy. It's really cloudy. And if we're to look into the symbolism of the forest, she's really going deeper into herself. This forest is a representation of herself. It's her well, her nature, right? Her biology, her natural impulses. And well, we'll see a little bit more how that plays out. But yeah, I mean, she steps into this forest, and everything's all everything's all cloudy, everything's all, sort of unknown, you could say. And if we're sticking with that, and yeah, it's a little scary. But when you look at a forest, the thing about a forest is it represents the shadow archetype. And the reason why it represents the shadow is what Carl Jung invented this. He called it the shadow. And the reason why he called it that is because when you actually go into these places of nature, you could say, it could be a forest, it could be an ocean, right? Like a water, it could be a cave, any of these things, there's always some good that could come out of it, right? Like you learn more about nature, you learn more about yourself. You get to go on these journeys and go on these adventures. There's always an adventure that comes in, for example, crossing the ocean. It's like that's what made Christopher Columbus amazing, because he was able to be an adventurer. And it's the same that goes with this forest. But the only problem is there's so much evil lurking in this forest. There's a jaguar in the forest, there's a whale in the ocean. There are all these things, and that's exactly what the shadow is. The shadow is there are two sides to the shadow. One is there's the part of nature that could kill you, the part of nature that is brutal, right? It's the negative side of the shadow, you would call it. And then there's also the positive side of the shadow, which is going deeper into yourself. And you define the shadow as anything that exists beyond your conscious perception. So it's the things that you're not aware of in your life. And the entire purpose of facing her shadow, and going into this forest, is to learn more about herself, to learn more about the unconscious patterns that she has, that she's sort of been, I'm not going to say repressing, because maybe it wasn't repressing, but she hasn't been made aware of. And that's exactly what she's going to do as she goes in this forest. And to further an existing archetype that we talked about before, the doors close behind her, or like the fog kind of closed behind her as she steps into the forest. And that's that same archetype as of, you're locked in. You're locked in. There's no going back from here. And once you step into this forest, you're either going to encounter the good or the bad, the positive or the negative side of the shadow. There's no other way. There's no other way. And you can't just leave. You can't just leave. So, let's go a little bit deeper into what happens when she actually goes into the forest. So, the first thing that she sees is this tornado that sort of comes in. And this is what I say when I say you're going to see the negative side of the shadow, this thing that I said jaguars, but tornadoes, natural disasters, that's something that's really, really scary. And that's the thing that could really kill you inside of a forest. And this is what you're going to encounter here is we're going to encounter the four spirits. So air, fire, water, earth. And this is air, right? So air is essentially showing the negative side of itself. And you're going to see that there's going to be positive sides of air. Air has, wind is something that's quite beautiful, but wind taking a little too far is a tornado, and it's something that obviously it could kill you. So what it does is it kind of brings them in, and they all get thrown into the tornado. Think about like a Wizard of Oz type, where literally everybody's kind of stuck in the tornado and they're trying to make their way out. And it drops all of the other people. So Anna, Kristoff, and Sven, it drops them all out, and it only leaves Elsa, because really this is Elsa's journey. Elsa should be tested, and this is her road of trials, where she really, really, you could call it the trials and tribulations, where she's really trying to fight off, this spirit, right? She's trying to win. When I say that she's encountering her nature, this wind is part of her nature, and it's not easy, right? It's not easy to encounter your nature, because there's a strong archetype of when you get started at something, no matter what you do, you're going to suck at it. You're going to be terrible, right? There's almost a guarantee that every time you start to do something, you're going to be bad at it. So imagine you try to pick up a new skill, like you try to start playing basketball. And whenever you start trying to play basketball, you have a bad shot to start off, and you have to train to get better at that shot. That's exactly what happened with Kobe Bryant, Michael Jordan, like Kobe Bryant, or any hero story, you could say. But I'm gonna use Kobe Bryant, for example. When he was 12 years old, he was playing basketball, and he played a little bit of basketball, but he wasn't very into it. He was more of a soccer type of guy. And well, he goes to play soccer, he goes to play basketball, he goes into this tournament, and throughout an entire tournament, I think it was multiple games, he scored 0 points. 12-year-old Kobe Bryant scored 0 points in this tournament. And well, imagine for every one Kobe Bryant, I bet you there were 1,000 kids that gave up. Maybe 10,000 kids that just said, "Oh, I guess I'm not that good at basketball." But Kobe obviously was different. He he just adopted a crazy workout routine, started playing basketball for X amount of hours a day, which is I think it was 4, and then he ended up ramping it up to 8, which is well, he attained that reputation of being the last guy in the gym, and that's exactly what he did. So by the time he was 17, 18 years old, he was drafted into the NBA. 5 years later, 6 years later, you could say, he was drafted into the NBA out of high school after not being able to make one single basket. It's like, that's the idea. The idea is the fool, this is a Jordan Peterson quote, the fool is the precursor to the savior. You must be willing to be a fool before you are willing to become the savior or the god or the person who has achieved everything that you want to achieve, because it's not easy. I think it's a great Tom Hanks quote. I forget what movie it was, but he says it's the hard that makes it great, because everyone, if it wasn't hard, then everyone would do it. And that's the truth. It's the truth. It's like the fact that it is hard is the thing that makes it worth it. And I think you could recount the lullaby in this thing. It says, this is the thing that you most fear. And yeah, I mean, it only calls to the people who are actually interested in it. So most people just don't go into their own forest. And right now Elsa's going to be a little bit of a fool. So yeah, she goes through these tribulations, and this is where she sort of must show her worth. So it shows her, she really struggles in the beginning, and she's going to keep struggling as we keep going through this. And she eventually learns. She eventually figures it out. She learns how to control the tornado, and the next step is, so she controls the tornado. Let's say she acquired a skill, like a small skill. And the next part is, then you learn a little something about yourself, because as you go to discover, she's going deeper into herself. So as she's going deeper into herself, she gets to learn a little bit more about herself. She gets to understand, maybe a little bit about her past, or a little bit about the person that she is now. So this is exactly what happens. She comes in, and a bunch of ice sculptures kind of come out, and that's because obviously she has ice powers over here, and she sort of like sprays it out, and she sees that this is a lesson about her past. This is another we'll say a part of herself. She finds that so we'll go to the plot point. So this is someone who's Northuldran, and here's someone who's Arendelian. They recognize this right here as her father. So it's a little interesting. It's a little weird how a Northuldran, the spiritual people, are saving the civilized people, you could call them, and what is this unity, you might ask? And she learns a little bit about herself, and then right away, you see the contrast. You see the contrast between this unity, and then you see an automatic disunion between the past and the present. So right now we see in the present, you have the Arendelian soldiers here, and the Northuldran soldier here, and they're obviously, she's pointing essentially a weapon at him, which is funny because it's a tree branch. And you could see that even though there's this potential for unity right now, as we watch it, there's not unity here, and you have a disunion between the spiritual side and the rational side, you could say. So then so let's get into the plot a little bit. So some of the plot points that I thought were really interesting is that this was the dam that Elsa and Anna's grandfather created, and it's a tough thing. There are so many symbols that you could derive from this, but the one that I found that was the most interesting was the one of security. right? The fact that, well, we can think of a dam as a wall, right? It's the thing that holds the bad things out. It could hold the chaos out. And the fact that this was released in 2018, I'm not sure, obviously there might be a nice political reference in there, but the symbol of a wall, and this is what Trump was playing into, is a wall symbolizes security, right? If you close the borders, right, or if you close away all the water, right, a dam stops water, then you're keeping all the chaos on the outside. Well, why do you have dams? Dams stop flooding, right? So chaos out there, and obviously, to build a wall against the Mexican border, Trump is saying that there is chaos on the other side of the border, and therefore, we should build up a wall to keep up our security, and that's exactly what this symbol is really purveying in here. And well, then they establish an interesting principle. This is the interesting principle that that Anna talks about in this scene. Is what she says is, maybe, just maybe, or they said no, 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 for sure. If this dam comes down, then it's going to flood. Then the flood is going to take down the entire Northuldran place as well as the Arundelian town. So so even though this dam, well, we're going to eventually learn it's tyrannical, right? It does more bad than it does good, you could say. Even though it does, it's giving them security, right? It's giving them this beautiful sense of security, and the fact that, what, maybe maybe our civilization is not going to completely flood if this dam holds up. And this is true in political systems. The reason why you have, for example, the United States Constitution. A lot of people don't like the Constitution, and I mean, fair point. It has its flaws, and in that case, you could look at it. You could look at it like this dam, and the fact that it's somewhat tyrannical, right? And you could say maybe it does more bad than good. That's not, well, since it does bad, you could say it does more bad than good. But well, the thing is, it gives you security, right? Imagine a civilization without laws, right? Imagine if we didn't have the Constitution. Imagine if we didn't have laws. We'd have anarchy, right? We'd have chaos, and that's exactly what the wall is holding back. It's holding back water. It's holding back a flood. It's holding back chaos. And well, it's a good archetype. It's a good archetype where it says, the reason why we have law, the reason why we're in a civilized society, is because, well, you need structure. You need stability. And even though some chaos is good, and that's exactly what Elsa is going for, you still need some stability. So we're going to see this sort of this balance between order and chaos sort of play out throughout the movie. And well, let's continue with some of the plot points. And well, you could see some character development. So we're going to see Olaf a little bit, and he's just a funny character, and the purpose of Olaf is, it's probably not for the viewers of this video because, well, this is a little bit more intellectual, but this is for essentially like the people who are 12 and 13 years old, the people who don't fully identify with Elsa, and for the people who kind of who are struggling to understand this movie. And that's exactly what Olaf is for. He sings a song, it's his own song where he says, this will all make sense when I'm older. That's When I'm Older, I think, is the title of the song. And well, it's a symbol of naivety, right? So Olaf himself is naive, and you could see right here, right? He's got this adoring face, this very like happy face when you have all these creatures that are staring at him, and yeah, I mean, he's just a little confused, and this movie is made to be a little confusing, or at least it's made to be a little bit profound, and therefore it's going to be confusing. And Olaf is there for the 12 and 13-year-olds who are really struggling to get a grip on it. And well, the thing is, if you can't identify with Elsa, which a lot of people do, because I think most people identify with Elsa, then you can still identify with Olaf. But anyway, so next you go deeper into it, and Elsa's she goes on to the next spirit. So it's air, fire, water, earth. The next one is fire, right? So so there's this fire spirit that kind of comes along, and she has to essentially put out all these fires. And again, this is another representation of the negative shadow. It's like, there's a tornado that that blew up, that tried to destroy essentially Elsa and the entire forest. It's this negative side of the forest. Now you have a forest fire that, as you can tell, it's complete chaos. And well, that's exactly what the negative shadow is. It's complete chaos, and she's trying to really put out these fires, and it's going to be very, very difficult. So then you have Anna. Anna's character is a little bit interesting. I don't know how much I'm going to focus on her here, but yeah, I mean, she just shows herself as being really dependent on Elsa. But I think it's a good thing for Elsa in this case, where Elsa she sees herself as independent as well as dependent. So she's going to be able to well, she tells Anna to get out of there because, well, she really wants to do this all herself, and she knows that Anna isn't capable of doing it. So next, Elsa really puts out all the fires, and here's one of the greatest symbolisms that I really like. So she sees that the fire spirit is encapsulated in this little frog type character. I'm going to call him a frog. And well, she pins him into a corner, and as you can tell, right, he has a hot temper. Look at his face, really, really hot temper. But something that's incredible about it is he he resembles to me a damaged dog. He resembles a dog that has been that whenever you well, this is the negative shadow. It's like whenever you see this whenever you see a dog that's been abused, what is its first reaction to you? It makes you leave, and then it has to trust you a little bit, and then you get to pet it, and then it begins to trust you, and then you can become develop a relationship with that dog. And that's exactly what they did with this frog. This is the negative shadow perfectly encapsulated. And then what happens when she begins to trust Elsa a little bit? It turns into this. And look at the difference. Look at the difference, right? You can tell that this is the positive side of the shadow. This is the side of the of nature that is beautiful, right? So here's one of the mantras that I'll really be using throughout this entire thing, is that when you look at nature, there are two ways to look at nature. You can look at nature in terms of something that is dangerous. You can look at it in terms of something that well, the thing that holds the cougars and the tornadoes and the epidemics and and the and death, right? Because nature is death, and that's exactly what this is here. But you could also look at nature as something beautiful, right? You can look at you can look at fire as something that look, this is controlled fire. Fire is something that gives you food, right? We have controlled fire as a civilization to use it as a stove. But at the same time, you could think of fire as something like this, which is uncontrolled and could really essentially burn down your forest. So there are two ways to look at nature. There are two ways to look at well, if we're using the analogy of Elsa as this being herself, her diving deeper into herself, she could see her nature, her biological instincts, her spirituality, you could say, because this is a very spiritual movie. She's diving deeper into well, she's going on a spiritual journey, you could say. And there are two ways that you could look at the spirit. You could look at the spirit in terms of this, and you could look at it in terms of this. And well, if you ask the question which one it is, the answer really is both. Like, it really is both, even in terms of the self, because as you go deeper into your spirit, you encounter things that you have been repressing your whole life. So imagine, well, I think everyone in their life has suffered trauma, suffered some sort of death in the family, maybe, or some sort of loss. And actually, 64% of children experience what is known as an adverse childhood experience, which is well, these are no joke. It's something like parental divorce, family members with drug addictions, family members with mental health disorders, sexual abuse, and there was one other one that is escaping my mind. And 64% of children have encountered at least one of these. And you got to ask, what do we do with this information? Imagine you're experiencing some sort of a traumatic event, and and you don't really know what to do with it because you're a kid and you're naive and you have no idea how to handle it. And well, what do? You sort of suppress it, right? You sort of push it down and say, you know what, I don't really have the tools to deal with that right now, so I'm just not going to deal with it. And well, you're eventually going to have to deal with it. And when you go and deal with it, it's not going to come at you and look at you like this little sort of this positive spirit. It's going to look at you like this. It's going to come back with a fury because it's, well, I guess you could say this memory that you've repressed is kind of, you could call it mad, but we'll call it mad from a symbolic sense. It's mad that you have neglected it for over these years. It's like, you've been constantly repressing this memory, and it's actually been affecting you because well, you learn from it. You learn deeply from these ideas, and we have these sort of correction mechanisms. So for example, if your parent will say, we'll go with emotionally abusive. So screams at you all the time, even though you might repress those memories and you might be like, listen, I don't want to deal with this right now. You're going to still start to change your behavior around this parental figure, right? You're going to change your behavior and you're going to be like, hey, listen, I am not going to talk back to this person. And therefore, whenever you get into your friend circle, you're also not going to talk back to them. And whenever you start to negotiate with people, you're not going to talk back to them. And it has a huge effect on you. You still learn, even though you repress these memories. And that's why it comes at you like this. It's because, well, we have this sort of overcorrection mechanism that well, isn't very good, or at least sometimes. And well, that makes you look at nature sort of like this. And yep, it's a little scary. But what you see is, Elsa really, she befriends nature, and I think that's one of the most powerful things in this entire story is that you look at your spirit, you look at your impulses, you look at life in general. You are given a choice as to whether or not you want to see it like this or like this, and she chooses to accept it. And I don't know how I feel about it because if you look at the Christian tradition, the Christian tradition, and Joseph Campbell is a huge, huge rebuke of it. It's that when you look at the Christian tradition, there's this strong notion that everything that is good inside of you. So let's say well, they're called the seven heavenly virtues. So it's like wisdom, and I really don't know the seven heavenly virtues, but when you look at these things that are good inside of you, so being kind, like loving other people, all these things that are inside of you, we look at them as good, and we could say they're from God. That's something that is well, God is all good in the tradition, the Christian tradition. But you look at all of these things that are bad inside of us, or bad, you could say, and well, you name it, right? It's the seven deadly sins, which I'm sure everybody's heard of. That's the sloth, that's the greed, that's the lust, that's the anger, that's the envy, that's the, man, did I get all of them? I think I missed two. But I mean, like all these things that are inside of us, they are part of our natural impulses, right? They are part of our nature. Yet we say they come from the devil, right? We blame them on the devil. And we say, whenever you are struggling with whenever you're struggling with lust, for example, that's the devil calling you, right? That's exactly what the story of Adam and Eve is. And that's also what the story of Jesus being tempted and the devil is, but tempted by the devil for 40 days. It's the devil is coming and trying to get you. And well, the problem with that is that we look at our impulses, we look at all these things that are natural inside of us, and we say, no, this is bad. This is actually bad. This is something that the devil is trying to put in me, instead of seeing it as something that's beautiful, right? Instead of seeing it, Joseph Campbell said when he went to Japan, he said, nobody there had heard of the fall of the Garden of Eden, and all of them looked at impulses as something sublime, something beautiful, something to be respected. And instead of taking this impulse and repressing it and seeing it as something that is evil, something that comes from the devil, you see it as something that's beautiful, and something that you could sort of integrate into your spirit, and something that you can integrate into your life. And well, It seems like that's the better way of doing it. And right there, that's the huge difference between the East and the West. You know, the Buddhist, Hindu, Confucianism, like those traditions, they believe in integration, while you have the Western traditions, like you look at the Greeks and you also look at the Judeo-Christian Muslim values, and all of them sort of believe in this idea that no, maybe you should suppress these, maybe you should repress these because they come from the devil, and well, this movie says something a little different. It says maybe nature's something to be revered. Maybe nature's supposed to be something that's beautiful. And if we want to look at it as something that's devilish, something that looks like this, then we can. And it's not wrong. But you're not going to be digging deeper into yourself, because that is also a part of you. You know, this part, this lust, this greed, this anger, this temptation, you know, all these things that we could call bad, they're a part of you. And it doesn't make sense to resist them. So this is what Elsa sort of does, and this is what the Northuldrans do. This is what the spiritual people do. And well, we'll see how it plays out. It's good for now.